is that the idea is liberals really are looking down upon working people, and they repeated this for 40 years. Okay, what that does, well, I'll tell you in a minute what that does. At the same time, they realized that a lot of working people were conservative in their family life and in certain social attitudes, while they may be progressive in their working life, their unions, their connection to nature, perhaps their churches, their community life, and so on. Now, what did they do? They used language and they discussed the parts where they were conservative. They aimed at abortion, they aimed at gay marriage, they aimed at all of those things. What does that do to a brain? It activates the conservative mode of reasoning. It activates strict father morality in their brain. Meanwhile, they use the liberal elite-eyed language to inhibit the progressive mode of thinking. So they were activating one, inhibiting another. What does that mean? It means that as the conservative mode of reasoning gets more active, it gets stronger, the synapses are strengthened, and it can spread to other issues. And that's what happened in these voters. Now, that's part one. Part two, you have to know something about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan understood something that a lot of people didn't understand before him. And I found this out from his chief strategist, Richard Wirthlin, a few years ago. I had met him and asked him what his experience was. He's very proud of it, and he went through it. And he said when he did his first poll for Reagan, it turned out nobody liked Reagan's positions on issues, and everybody wanted to vote for Reagan. He didn't know why. He was embarrassed. So he went out to find out why, and he found out the following. Reagan talked about values, and people cared about values. Reagan appeared to believe what he said. He appeared to be authentic, and people cared about authenticity. Reagan was a communicator. He connected with people, and people care about people who connect with them. As a result, they felt they could trust Reagan and identify with him. So they ran the campaign not on issues, but on just those things: values, authenticity, communication, trust, and identity. Okay? Those were the things. That's the base, and Bush ran the same way. Obama ran his campaign that way. His campaign was based on those five things. That is, talking about his values and so on. Hillary based her campaign on positions on issues. She was the policy wonk, and she came out with this program, that program, another program, another program, another program. And it didn't work. It failed and it failed and it failed. I mean, when she actually looked human in New Hampshire, people started to say, oh, wow, okay, I can identify with that. But when she went back to being the policy wonk, it didn't work, and she fell very far behind. By Pennsylvania, she realized it and switched, and it was too late. She changed her body language. She changed her voice. She changed her hairdo. She changed her clothes. And not only that, what she did was try to use exactly the argument, that the conservatives had used, but against Obama. She called him an elitist. She tried to pin the elitist label on him. She said he just talked in rhetoric, didn't have any ideas, he was highfalutin, and so on. She would go bowling, and all of this stuff. And what she did was use exactly the right-wing tactics. She moved to the right in arguing against Obama, and it worked for good reason.
But
Obama...
but my point was trying to emphasize the empathy part that you attribute to Obama that somehow didn't work in Pennsylvania. That's what I was trying to
What happened there is Obama, wasn't trying to, was caught. Obama missed something. When he made that statement in San Francisco about people clinging to their religion, he got it wrong. He didn't understand conservative populism. He just got it wrong, and he allowed Clinton and the right wing to jump on him in just that way. So he made a mistake, and he didn't know how to do it. Now, he then learned that what he had to do was connect with working people, and he's been working on that since then. And to do that, you don't go to big rallies, you go to small things. It's not like he can't talk to working people, he's a community organizer. And what he's been doing since then is going to small groups and talking as a community organizer. And I suspect that's what will happen for the next 5 months. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
As I understand what you were saying before, you were talking about the framing, and that was universal across all sorts of.
Well, some is framing, it's not all universal, right. There's some that are and some that's not.
The, like the language connections between warmth and affection type, those types of things that people seem to experience.
It's true in most of the world, but not in equatorial India, where being a warm person is being a mean person.
The actual question, though, had to do with the previous comment you were making about cultural narratives, which, as I would figure, tend to differ around the world. Different things just appeal to different people. Is there research? I don't even know if you've studied this at all, but I mean, how does someone make a transition between maybe what they grew up with in the country they were born, and suppose they immigrate to a totally different part of the world, and are trying to like understand that new world in the terms of their cultural narratives, which may be very different? Or, you know, I mean, if you were to marry someone with a different culture, I mean, how do you kind of bridge these gaps?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And the one study that's come out of our department is on China. It's on human rights and understanding human rights in native Chinese, in first generation and second generation. And it turns out family structure in China is very different. Their children are brought up to live their lives for the family, not for themselves, right? Very, very different idea about what you're supposed to be doing in life. What that does, when you view the nation as a family, as they do in China, it means that if you are rebelling against the established order in the nation, it's like rebelling against your family. It's like being selfish. It's a disaster. You're not a good citizen, right? And and so the idea of human rights is a totally different thing in China. You're not supposed to have individual rights. That's not what the country is about. You get people who are in the second generation here, and they're just American. In the first generation, it's a mixed bag, and people are trying to assimilate and figure it out, and they go one way sometimes, sometimes the other way. It's complicated. Yes?
I believe earlier this year, your Rockridge Institute issued a report critical of biofuels and ethanol, and I'm not sure if you were associated with it, but I think it reflects some of the issues, because since then there have been increasing concerns about adverse effects upon the poor and the environment, and yet it seems like action against them has been hampered by sort of elite corporate interests, elite, regrettably liberal billionaires, and even some of the mainstream elite enviros like NRDC.
Right.
What are your thoughts about this in relation to your writings?
Okay. A very good question. I think the science is fairly clear on it. Ethanol is a disaster when it's coming from certainly when it's coming from corn. There is a dispute about other kinds of ethanol, switchgrass ethanol, and so on. Some of the people, biologists I know of at Berkeley, claim that all of the other forms of ethanol that people are proposing are even worse than corn ethanol, that they have terrible effects on the environment, that they use up much more energy than they provide, that they would require transportation that would use even more energy, and so on. So there's that. At the same time, BP has convinced the chancellor of our university and to set up a branch, part of the university dedicated to BP. When they've supposedly given $500 million, but $100 million goes to University of Illinois. But it turns out what they get for this is a laboratory